Newcomers, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome, Whovians. Look, we have new episodes of Doctor Who. Yay! Welcome to our what's going to be our weekly spoiler review, discussion, reaction to the latest episodes of Doctor Who from Russell T Davies. We will get into Davies being back, but specifically with Millie Gibson and with Ncuti Gatwa. We were going to get some musical episodes.
And some dancing and some outfits and
some medium shirts.
Some medium shirts. Yes.
Welcome. If you have not been to one of our reviews before, we are huge Doctor Who fans. I've got Doctor Who. I've got Gallifreyan on my arm for those who are not on the podcast. And we're almost all the way through our rewatch with Jodie. I think we're to Flux.
Yes. Yep.
I think we just finished Timeless Child.
Yep.
And we've been very excited about what's coming, the new showrunners, new Who. And if you haven't been to one of our reviews, we kind of meander. We are not those to pick out all the little Easter eggs and stuff like that, although we like to learn about those Easter eggs and stuff.
Yep.
But we're more talking about the kind of the feeling and the meaning behind kind of what they're trying to say and the conversation they're trying to say. Both of these episodes, both Space Babies, which is episode 1.
2.
Episode 1, I went and looked it up.
On Disney Plus, episode 1 is the Christmas.
Okay, so on IMDb it's wrong. Because The Church on Ruby Road is listed as episode 0. And then episode 1 is Space Babies, and episode 2 is The Devil's Note.
Yeah.
Devil's Chord, sorry. Yeah, so IMDb and Disney Plus need to get their shit together and talk to each other, and let's get that figured out. So we're normally we would spend just one episode talking about the episode we just watched, but since we got a double header tonight, we're going to talk about both episodes. Mostly we'll try to break it up into one for one, one conversation for one and one conversation for the other. But there'll be some blend over because what do they call them? The paradox. That Maestro is a part of a god or whatever. The coven of gods or whatever, and then he who waits is coming.
Yep.
And then we had all the stuff around the Christmas episodes with the toy maker also saying that there's somebody coming. So there'll be some discussion in between with those. With all that being said, hi. I just read the internet. Most people liked Space Babies.
Okay.
There are a few people who are English who are against fun. Who were just saying rubbish in the comments.
Right.
And that's very typical Davies storytelling. Either you absolutely love it, you absolutely hate it, but he's going to take a wild swing at something, and that's just how it is with him.
It's Doctor Who.
Right.
You have Spider Women and
also Davies.
The Shadoon and the come on and the little fat babies,
the adipose.
Yeah,
that was Moffat who came up with that.
I mean, but that's Doctor Who.
Part of the fun of modern Who is the ridiculousness that it does lean into on a regular basis. And sometimes, even for us, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. We are both parents. And grandparents. So talking babies is freaking hilarious.
And I just, the whole time, I just kept thinking, oh my God, what was this set like? With, 10 babies.
The remote control strollers.
Trying to wrangle them and keep them all from crying for 5 minutes so we can do a take. Yeah, wow. That must have taken them like months just to do that one episode.
I just one of the things that we talk about around here is the making process, the filmmaking, the storytelling process, the actual getting it on the screen. So yes, I thought about that too, about the whole how did they get this done, and the conversation that the doctor has with is it Jackie, Captain Jackie, the captain of the space station baby, about how.
No, it's not Jackie.
It was something I can't.
It's like Polly, because he kept calling her, or Poppy.
Poppy.
He kept calling her Pops, and like every other name in the book.
Yeah, but the conversation he has with her is she asks, are we defective, or are we bad, or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like reassuring her, saying, "No, I'm also somebody who was." Left. I'm the only one of my kind. I was also left behind by my parents, and I'm unique, just as unique as you are unique. You're your own special person, and I think that might be a kind of a reoccurring story arc that we get with this season.
Yeah, well, definitely, because Ruby is adopted too, so a left baby. So, I mean, that came up in both of these episodes.
Yeah.
So definitely, and it, it part of it's Shuti's style, but it feels very much like, for good or for bad, the Jodie seasons were dark. Like
the last season was very dark. The flux was very dark.
I just feel like the whole thing was like broken, as far as who the doctor was, and this just feels like he's lighter.
He's
like
accepted.
They are lighter.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's from the split, because David Tennant's doctor was always very angry. He was and like not at people, just in himself.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a long time ago when Tennant was angry and Smith was just like, I'm in the denial of my childhood trauma or my past life trauma.
Yeah.
And Capaldi was a little.
He was very angry,
but in a crotchety old man kind of way.
Well, he was a crotchety old with a tight eyebrows.
With the tight eyebrows.
But yeah, he was definitely the angry version of the doctor.
And then Jodie's doctor was just, I don't know, dark, sad.
I think she was. We've talked about this a lot, about how we love Jodie. I've got my Jodie shirt on. I cosplay as the 13th Doctor. Jodie's doctor was kind of a weird amalgamation. Like, she never really got the chance to be any one thing. She was very sad at times, but she was also manic about doing a lot of things. Like, there's maybe a better podcast or a better conversation by another group who can spend more time with the psychoanalyzing the doctors and stuff like that. But she felt very bipolar when it came to, especially during the rewatch that we've been doing.
Yeah.
That she was very high or very low.
Yeah, yeah.
And she wasn't able to. There was times when she was very low, and the fam would ask her, like, or Team TARDIS. Sorry, didn't go with fam. The Team TARDIS would like, "Are you okay, Doc?" And she would like, "Oh yes," and smile it off and stuff like that. And that's depression. That's bipolarness.
Yeah.
That's having friends who have been through both of those things. That was very much kind of something that was. We didn't get the first time, I think, and we just kind of got it. We got it, and then the 3-episode Christmas arc, the 60th anniversary. No, the Christmas arc that we got. It was the Doctor allowing him, like, forgiving himself.
Yeah.
That was the split.
Yeah.
when they did the split, the first thing the doctor did was hug the doctor.
Yeah.
And said it was okay.
Yeah. And so, like, Ncuti has... There all kinds of hugging going on in both of these episodes, which... Cool, great. And then...
And running.
And then I can't even count how many times Ncuti was crying.
Yeah.
And you never see the doctor cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, yeah. I really like so far with these 3 episodes we've gotten with
14.
15.
15. Well, if you count.
Yeah, they counted him as 4. They counted Tenet Part 2.
Okay.
They counted him 14,
okay.
so this is 15.
All right.
But with Ncuti's, he's all 3 episodes. He has shown a emotional maturity. Hey, I am sad. I'm going to show my sadness.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm happy. When he called her Rubes.
Yeah.
And she's like,
don't call me Rubes.
Don't call me Rubes. And the big grin got on his face. You know that one's coming back. And just the way that he instantly, like, cared for what was going on with the babies.
Yeah.
It's a very doctor thing to kind of, like, show up and, like, what's going on, how can I help kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this was even more over the top. Like, Capaldi's doctor would show up and he'd be like, all right, I'm here. Ask my carer if we were actually going to stick around and care.
I don't hug.
And I don't hug. And Jody would just go, like, diving head first, and you're like, do you want to tell the rest of everybody else what you're doing first? You know? But, like, at least so far with Ncuti, he's very much, I care about myself. I care about Ruby. I care that she is taken care of, and we kind of talk about the destruction of London because of no music, the destruction of the world because of no music. And, but he, like, the first thing he did was he accepted the idea of, I have to show her. He shows her the destruction of London.
Yeah.
And then the next thing he does is grab her and hold her.
Yeah.
And that's an emotional maturity that we haven't had with the other doctors.
Yeah.
Which is why the hugging all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm totally okay with that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
With the Space Baby episode, Space Babies, I love that he kept correcting himself, too. The babies. No, Space Babies. With that episode, it's a really good example of how Doctor Who uses fairy tales, previous storytelling, history to tell a modern story. And all throughout Doctor Who, from 1963 to today, all through that time period, they have talked about history and science and real world politics and real world issues and global warming and blah, 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 blah.
What's going on with the bees?
What's going on with the bees? And so the Space Babies episode wasn't smacking you in the face with it like we got with Chibnall and his kind of way of doing storytelling and having social issues and conversations. But they talked about how we have the space station, their job is to make babies, and the government said you have to make babies. The law says you have to continue to make babies, but we're not going to take care of them after they're born. We're just going to leave them on the space station and take everybody else, all the adults, away.
Yeah.
And that's us in the States are dealing with this at the federal level.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court level. And so it's timely. It's very timely with the conversations that we're having, even though these episodes were written a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. The thought process was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So as much as people are going to say, "Oh, Doctor Who's gone woke," we're beyond the woke conversation. Whatever. It's always been that. But they brought up the social problem of the real world,
right,
in this episode.
Yep.
And the idea of having one person, all it takes is one person to stick around and care.
Yeah.
To help keep the baby safe. And that her last act was to give the last of her air to the babies.
Yeah.
And even though they've been abandoned by the government, is all you need to continue to say this to. You need one person to be there for others until reinforcements arrive.
Yeah.
And the reinforcements were the Doctor and Ruby.
Yep.
And and then we have to talk about the monster, the boogie monster.
Bogey monster.
Bogey monster.
Because they're British.
Right. Right.
We call it a boogie monster. They call it a bogey monster. We call it boogies, and they call it bogies.
Well, because they're next to Scotland.
I think it sounds better as bogey.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound as gross.
It was still gross. I love that Ruby was the one that got doused and all this stuff, and then the Doctor figured it out, and he couldn't stop giggling.
He's like, I'm not telling you. And I was like, oh, it's all their nappies.
Yeah.
And no, that came in later.
That came in later.
Was all the Kleenex.
The 6 years of nappies to push them into zone.
Out of the butt of
the
space
right,
station.
because there's two giant spheres and it came up through the middle. Like, don't you think that we didn't catch that? But with the idea of telling a fairy tale of we have a nanny taking care of children, we have a hero, we have a monster, like that is something that we've done multiple times in Doctor Who, just wrapped in different wrapping paper.
Yeah.
And I just love that like for me personally, I don't know how you feel about this, but for me personally, interjecting that kind of traditional Doctor Who storytelling with the, we have to reintroduce people to Doctor Who,
yeah,
or introduce the new people to Doctor Who, because the ad campaign for this and having it be on Disney Plus is a big freaking deal.
Oh yeah, and you can tell, right? The special effects and stuff have been definitely kicked up to the next level.
Yeah. But this, it was a nice way of reintroducing the ridiculousness of it, B, the social conversation, C, the impact that the Doctor has on even the smallest things, and just like, it's fun. We laughed out loud multiple times.
Yeah. Eric and the little tiny toy sword
sword was just amazing. And him just every time, like, I love you, Ruby.
He was adorable. They were all adorable.
Introducing all the things that we have, the sonic screwdriver, although it's a sonic remote now.
Yeah.
Ruby's phone got changed so she can call Mom whenever.
Yep.
I love that she called Mom 10 minutes after she left just to tell her I love you.
Yep.
Just the idea of the TARDIS and kind of what you did. The butterfly, we have to talk about the butterfly. Because
right.
that's a big thing in time travel, is if you step on a butterfly in 160 million years ago, you change the whole future of everything. And they actually make a joke of it. Like, what if I step on a butterfly? And the Doctor's like, you're going to have to really try hard to step on a butterfly.
Yeah.
And then the first thing that Ruby does when she walks out is step on a butterfly. And then she's all of a sudden this
alien
insect thing that's willing to kill the Doctor for even looking at her funny. And then they go back inside and he's like, I gotta turn the butterfly, it's new controls, I gotta turn the butterfly thing on. So I loved all of that. I felt it was a good introduction to what we know as Doctor Who.
Yeah, and they definitely hit all, like, normally a lot of that stuff comes up kind of throughout maybe the first season. Gallifrey, he's just the Doctor. He is essentially an orphan. The kind of the TARDIS and what it does and where it can go. That he has two hearts. That stuff kind of leaks out over like the first season to the companion, where this was like first technical episode, and here it is, and he's not wistful or sad or whatever when he's saying this stuff. It's like yep
I am an orphan and it's okay, like,
whole
it's okay.
Planet is gone.
yeah I like that they like did all of that in mostly the first 15-20 minutes of the episode. Like it's not the Cliff Notes version, it's a full on like explanation of the Doctor, but having that idea like like all of this stuff the new people need to know, but it's if we hold on to it as we move forward, it just jumbles up the story of the one who waits and whatever that it's going to be and stuff. So
it's kind of like let's just get it over with so we can move on to the good stuff.
And then Ruby got her key, and I love that kind of, is she going to take the key? Is she not going to take, I mean, we all know she's going to take the key. We've seen the set photos of her filming season 2. But, like, just the idea, do you have it, are you going to take the key? This is the key. You got the key? Okay, yes, no. It was just like, I love that their chemistry is so perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing it up here is because in the beginning of the very next episode, them dancing after changing into their 60s attire, them dancing through the ramps of the TARDIS is like pitch perfect.
Yeah.
And them dancing in sync on Abbey Road at the crosswalk. I've seen a ton of different things to how they filmed different things on Abbey Road at the crosswalk. They don't shut down traffic.
No.
So I would love to know how they did this. I'm sure we'll get some.
I mean, it's just it's kind of a residential area, so it's not like it's downtown London or anything.
Yeah.
But
so I think that's everything we wanted to talk about with Space Babies.
Yeah. I
think we kind of hit all the main things. So the second episode, The Devil's Chord, we get introduced to Jinx, who is Maestro. They make a point of calling themselves they.
Right.
And then like, yep, I'm they, moving on. Jinx is a drag performer in the UK.
Yep. Pretty famous one, actually.
And they're pretty amazing. Like I love this take on this type of Doctor Who villain. I almost said Star Wars villain. This Doctor Who villain. I love this on purpose, over the top caricature. I nailed
Caricature?
it. Caricature of a villain in Doctor Who, because we have Misty's version of the Master, who is very flamboyant and over the top, which is very different than we have from like the Daleks or the Cybermen, who are very one note.
Yeah.
So you can have the full range of the different, but their thing is that they consume music.
Right.
And as we were talking about in the previous episode about having, forcing people to have babies and then not taking care of the babies, that you're forcing them to keep. This one was music and art is important.
Yep.
And showing London in 1963 with the Beatles not being able to sing and not be able to put any music together, and that showing London overall is kind of in this cloud of haze and overcast. I mean, it's London; it's always overcast. But not having music is a big deal. And then we move back to June of 2024 in their timeline, and they show London has been nuked.
Yeah.
And so it's a big deal that music is a big part of our lives.
Yep.
And I thought it was a very interesting idea of talking about the importance of art and why we need it so much, without sitting there saying, you need to fund all the art programs right now.
Right, but, you should fund all the art programs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's I think that's a really good kind of thing to do. I think this is a good, like the Toy Maker. This is another good softball. I won't say softball because it was hard to defeat the Toy Maker and Maestro.
Right.
So to show that the Doctor has to think outside the box and have a musical battle and
yeah. Well, and a lot of times with previous Doctors, like it's an episode of the week, and sometimes there's an underlying bad guy entity girl master, whatever, throughout maybe the season, but the difficulty of the episode, whether that's a bad guy or alien invasion or whatever, is generally solved at the end of the episode, right?
Yeah.
They're little self-contained episodes. So the fact that this baddie who is the child of the toy maker, like the doctor is scared. Like the doctor says, I can't defeat them. So this isn't going to be I'll just sonic screwdriver my way out of whatever the situation is. There's stakes and there's entities out there now that the doctor can't easily defeat.
They one of the complaints when Davies did the show before is that the ex machina of the sonic screwdriver allowed the doctor to get out of a lot of situations fairly easily.
Yeah.
Which is both a fair and maybe somewhat unfair criticism. If you actually watch the episodes, it wasn't about necessarily. He did a bunch of other things and then just was able to do the things because he had the sonic screwdriver.
Yeah.
But both of these episodes, the sonic was taken out of play. Multiple times. And so that forcing the storytellers to force the doctor to figure out how to defeat whoever in a outside of the box way is, I think, really something that Davies learned from his previous run on the show.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's showing with, at least with these. I'm going to start throwing in the Church on Ruby Road too, because that one also dealt with the same ideas and having to outthink of what's going on than just what's going, just having a yada yada and we sonic it and we're done. And so, but it wasn't even the doctor who defeated Maestro.
Right.
It was John and Paul.
Right.
Now the doctor kind of got him there.
Yeah.
He kind of left it kind of. He wasn't. They were trying to find the perfect chord, and the doctor got all whatever 6 notes or whatever they had gotten to, and he missed the last one.
Yep.
And the piano goes out into the hallway, and then John and Paul show up, and they do the brong, which is the final note in.
I'm pretty sure it's Sgt. Pepper's at the end of the album.
Yeah.
It's. I can think of it's not. This is not the name of the song, but it's "Carry That Weight." But I don't think that's the name of the song. But at the very end, like the music is done, and then all of a sudden you get this dong, kind of orchestral pianos, and I'm pretty sure that was the chord that they played.
Yeah, and I like that they. I want to. A little backstory for us. We love the MCU as well, and we love the connectivity of the MCU. And in Phase 4, we enjoyed a majority of what they did in Phase 4, but specifically Multiverse of Madness. And the final battle between Dark Strange and R Strange was a music battle with music notes.
Yeah.
And I love that scene. Raimi is nuts. I just named Raimi is nuts. Have him do a Doctor Who episode. Let's go.
Yeah.
So when they started, like the idea of taking music away from people, and that's how Maestro gets fed. Cool. I love that idea. But to take that and have a music battle, a piano versus the violin, I don't know how.
It's the devil went down to Georgia.
That's what I was just gonna say. Like, how did he not have a violin tune? How did the doctor not have a violin tune?
Well, I expected them to kind of go into that a little bit, like a few chords or bars from "Devil Went Down to Georgia."
Yeah.
But they. British. That's fine.
Right. Devil went down to Kent. But there was multiple times in this episode where they did the da 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 da.
Yeah.
Da 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 on both on the piano and on the violin, and like there was times even when Maestro was singing that did da 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 da, and then she also did they also did the
Yeah.
before it
The
came
giggle.
out that
Yeah, the giggle.
the giggle
Yeah.
that came out before they explained that they are the child of the toy maker.
Right.
So this is what I think we're here for, is that you can watch this episode. You can watch both of these episodes by themselves, and
Yeah.
you can enjoy each individual episode and not know a damn thing about Doctor Who. But if you know,
Yeah.
the first thing I thought of was Saxon.
Yeah. But it's also
It's also the opening notes of the.
it's a Time Lord's heartbeat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really was in the forefront during Saxon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's in the song. It's the Doctor's heartbeat. So it's almost like the song of the universe. It's the sound of the universe.
Yeah, and also with this episode, they are standing on the roof, and the Doctor talks about how he's got his TARDIS parked at the Tower Bridge, and that him and his granddaughter right now in 1963 are living there.
Yeah.
And that they could go over and say hi if they wanted to, but there's timey-wimey, and every time they say, oh, we can't go see ourselves, we're going to mess up the timeline, and then the 65th anniversary has 7 of the Doctors all sitting together, but it's stuff like that, the connectivity that we didn't get necessarily in the first season with Chibnall and Jodie, that I think we both missed, as more seasoned Doctor Who fans. And so specifically in this episode, to have the 4 heartbeats, to have the giggle because of the toy maker, to have the conversation about them being over at the, I love all of that stuff. And I'm sure, like I said earlier, we're not an Easter egg channel. And so I'm sure there's a ton more. I know they made a point of saying a couple of names that I just...
The old woman who plays the piano and Maestro comes in and takes her. I'm pretty sure she's somebody, when you were on IMDb, I saw her IMDb picture. She looked very familiar. I'm pretty sure she's a pretty popular actress in the UK.
In the UK,
I just don't really remember what I've seen her in. Maybe, like Bridgerton or something like that.
Yeah. James May's wife, at the end of Church on Ruby Road, look at us in this eye and say, "What? You've never seen a TARDIS before?"
Yeah. No, Brian May.
Brian May. Sorry, I say Richard May. Brian May, his wife. I'm trying to remember her name off the top of my head. I can't.
And she was a model.
She was a model and actress, and she's huge in the UK.
Yeah.
But that connectivity to British pop culture, we may not necessarily know. We'll find out about it when I listen to the Doctor Who podcast this weekend, which they announced today or yesterday that they're going to do an official after show.
Nice.
With talking about Easter eggs and all the connectivity and all the different things, and they're going to have guests, and they're going to have Russell T Davies on there, and so
sweet.
So all of that stuff, but at the end of the episode, they go back to Ruby's mom's house, apartment, loft, whatever they call them over there, and park the TARDIS in the kitchen. Just take the ceiling out. Ruby comes out, hugs mom and grandma, and turns around and says, "Are you going to come out?" And the Doctor says, "Tell your mom not to slap me this time." And he turns around and runs the scan of Ruby to figure out who she is, because Maestro earlier in the episode had tied up Ruby with the musical chords and stuff like that, and said that you're not right, and that she had an internal song to her that kind of was defeating Maestro at the time.
Yep.
And that she is not right. Like Ruby is not right, as she shouldn't exist as she is.
Yeah. And she keeps making it snow.
And she kept that was the thing in Space Babies. The Doctor had a flashback to the scene from Church on Ruby Road, where he looked at Mom as she was running away, but this time she turned around and pointed at him, and then all of a sudden it's snowing in the space station.
Yep.
They had the same kind of thing at the end of that of Devil's Chord, where it was snowing in the TARDIS when they brought it up. So which is what we thought it was going to be. I'm not going to say we're like surprised by this, but the overall arc of this season is going to be figuring out who Ruby is and who her mother is,
right,
and who her father possibly is.
Right.
So let's do some wild speculation.
Okay.
We have discussed this on the other episodes. My current theory.
Yes.
She's the Doctor's child.
I thought about that.
Not the daughter. The Doctor's daughter is something different.
Right.
But the child of the Doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought about that. And they even bring it up when he's saying, we could go see me and my granddaughter. And she says,
you had a granddaughter.
You had a granddaughter.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And she's like, that means you had children. And he's like, yeah, and I will again.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. And there's also this idea of if she really is a child of a Time Lord, what does that mean? Like, is she have one heart? I mean, they did a DNA test on her, and the first episode they introduced her in the Church of Ruby Road. They did the ancestry thing with her.
Yeah.
So if she had two hearts, it would have been. They would have said it then.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something connecting the Doctor to her outside of he just wants a mate to hang out with and stuff. There's definitely something there. But my wild speculation as of right now is she is a child of the Doctor.
Sure.
Or she is, the other popular opinion right now, is she is Amelia Pond's other child. No, not Rose. Rose and the human Doctor.
Oh yeah.
So she would be a human, but she would be of Time Lord essence, but she would have a regular human lifespan kind of thing.
Except they're supposed to be in a different dimension.
Right.
So then, I mean, Rose did come over a couple of times.
Right.
So
Right.
I guess you could explain that. I don't know. I'm just excited that I don't know.
Yeah. And at least for me, and I think we've both kind of come to this, one of the things we would love to do about with Doctor Who or Star Wars or Game of Thrones, we want to sit here and have this conversation of wild speculation at the end of our discussions about each episode. But we're willing to say, hey, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, but we're not married to any of those, and then we throw it all away when the new episode starts.
Right.
We talk about it for a week, about what this could be and what that can mean and what this can mean, but when the episode starts, it's like we disconnect ourselves from all of our previous speculation, and we don't hold it to...
Right, I'm not married to
any one thing. I will let the storytellers tell their story.
Yep.
One of the things that the two things we talk about around here a lot is love your fandom. So if you didn't like this episode, I totally get it. You still love Doctor Who. It's okay to sit there and say, hey, I didn't like this episode. It wasn't for me, but I did like this. Cool.
Yeah.
Don't be a douche and say, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't believe they did this. Blah, blah, blah. How is there a black guy as a doctor? Blah, blah, blah. Like that's... You don't love your fandom. So love your fandom. Right. The other thing around here that we discuss is engage in the story that's being told.
Right. Stop being mad when the story you wanted to be told isn't the story that ends up being told.
And that was one of the things different in Star Wars. There's wild speculation of what everything is and what everything means, and some people get lost in that and they get to the thing and it's not what they had in their head.
Yep.
And one of my favorite podcasts had that issue this week about what a certain type of person was supposed to look like, and they couldn't get past the idea that they had in their head, and so they had to go back and rewatch the episode with that out of their head. And once they did that, they were able to allow themselves to open up to the conversation. And that's one of the things that we try to do around here is, hey, let's have some fun talking about what it could be and stuff. We are here to engage in the story that's being told. We love our fandom, and we're going to discuss the essence of what they're trying to tell us.
Yep.
And I'm willing to give up, hey, there's some continuity errors, or the Sonic just like yada yada, the end. Like, I'm okay with kind of giving that stuff up.
Yeah.
To enjoy this thing that we love so much.
Yep. Yep.
So with all of that, that's the first 2 episodes. We're not going to go 40 minutes on each time. We had 2 episodes.
No.
20 minutes an episode. That seems pretty good.
That's fair. Yep.
We are trying to restart the podcast part of this. We're recording on both YouTube and to put up on Spotify. So please let your friends know that we're going to do this for Doctor Who, Game of Thrones, The House of the Dragon this summer, The Acolyte this summer, our longer conversation kind of things we're going to put on the Spotify playlist, but we're also going to put them on YouTube so you can see our beautiful faces.
And we do trailer reactions. So those will be on YouTube.
Movie reviews.
Movie
we
reviews
put all
on
that
YouTube.
on that. A little housekeeping for not this week, but next week. On the 24th, we will be at Phoenix Fan Fusion, our comic book convention here in the Phoenix area. I don't know how we're going to do the episode and record it. We might do it when we get home on Monday. The episode comes out on Friday. It'll get
we can do it maybe on Sunday.
Maybe we'll do it on Sunday. I don't plan on taking the stuff to record. Our fan fusion for us is 3 days of drinking and being geeks. We don't do a ton of stuff where we get media passes and do a bunch of other stuff like we did for like Emerald City or Amazing Las Vegas or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But ours is hanging out with our friends and doing our fandom stuff.
We're paying for tickets and we're gonna do what we want to do.
We want to do what we want to do. So we watch the episode drunkenly on Friday night, but we won't talk about it until probably Monday.
Yeah, Sunday evening or Monday.
Yeah. So with that, please like this video. Download the podcast episode, subscribe to both the channel and the podcast, and follow us on all the social media. It's free, by the way, and it helps us out a ton. Share it with your friends, that kind of thing. And follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, sometimes Twitter, and TikTok. And the links are all in the description down below. Welcome, Whovians, to our wackiness of discussions. I hope you all enjoyed it. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.